All right.
Don't worry about it.
Ah, there we go. There we go.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
Nice.
Perfect.
Oh, we're in business now. We are in business. Okay. Move this a little bit. Thank you guys for having me. I know Mr. Slivka or Kevin, depending on how you're feeling, introduce you to my work, and I'm really grateful to be invited here. It's an honor to speak to students. Mr. Slivka was my professor when I was at New Paltz, which is a undergraduate university north of Manhattan, and you really have such a privilege to have him as your teacher. He made me feel very heard, and he made my thoughts and our conversation seem significant and important, and he really lended an ear to me. So I'm grateful that this relationship has continued and that he invited me. My goal here is to share my story with you, be of service to you as you're thinking about your future as an artist, or maybe not as an artist, someone who appreciates it. And at the very least, me being here is sometime a break from your artwork. I don't know about where you are, but I'm a teacher as well, and my students will say that I'm on a yap session when I'm talking a lot. So I'm about to have a little bit of a yap session with you all. I'll try to keep it fairly brief and move through different elements of my practice and the things that Mr. Slivka said I'd share with you. And I plan to leave some time for questions. And also, I'd love to hear about some of your plans or some of the things that you're working on. But I have these images on the screen here on the left. That was from last year. I was invited to give a commencement speech during graduation at Stony Brook University, where I got my Master of Fine Arts degree, which is a graduate terminal degree. It's like artists can't get doctorates, so you can get a Master of Fine Arts, and that's what I got. And it was a real honor to be invited back after graduating. A few years later, they brought me in as their speaker. And on the right is a photo from January. I was included in an art show, a group exhibition in Manhattan at a place called Gallery MC in an area of Manhattan called Hell's Kitchen. And I actually got included in that show because of a friend that I had made in 2015 when I went to college. We had a few art classes together, and that relationship stayed intact, and through social media and that sort of thing. And she's involved in curating exhibitions, and I applied and got in. So your relationships are significant. These pictures are recent, but I was once in your position. Let me move forward here. I want to start where you are now, or almost at. This is a throwback to 2012 or 13. This is a picture of me in my AP art class. I don't know if anyone in the room is in AP art right now or planning on being in AP art, but that's where you put together your portfolio, and at least in New York, the work that you do through the whole year gets put into a portfolio, and you come up with a theme. I loved AP art. It was the best. I loved my teacher, my class. It was the first true studio experience, and you're probably all getting that now with Mr. Slivka. I even remember my topic. It was like young versus old, pictures of me and my dad and that sort of thing. But my story starts in high school as an artist. This is me playing basketball. I was definitely more into sports during 9th through 11th, 12th. And even to this day, the source of a lot of my creative drive or inspiration starts with what happened at the end of high school. I had my spine fused. I had an operation on my spine during my senior year. I just turned 18. I thought I was hot stuff. I was going to play basketball at college and this and that. I was still very interested in art and committed to it, but my relationship completely changed to my body. I had a lot of medical experiences, being under the knife in hospitals, getting different types of scans taken, all of that stuff. And of course, the pain and the challenge of recovering from something like that. This was, 11 years ago in 2013. And it, like I said, it still is influencing my artwork. So the first question or rule that I want to pose to you all and break up this talk with is, when you're creating, you should be considering, where are you in your artwork? Of course, you're building skill at this age, at this time in your art career. You're figuring out how to use materials, but start considering now, where are you in your artwork? What story or experience are you sharing with the audience? Use that circumstance. It's going to be 1 in 8 billion, but also it's still going to be relatable because a lot of us share similar experiences. And if it's not relatable, you are telling a story. Tell it like you're sharing it with one person. Our stories and experiences are very intimate. So consider using your circumstance in your art practice. So after high school, I applied to SUNY New Paltz, which is a state university. It's like, I don't know if you have it where you guys are, but it's not a private school. It's a little bit more cost effective, but they had a great art program. I put my portfolio together when I was in high school and to apply to colleges through my AP art class, and New Paltz is where I decided to go. And during that time, those 4 years, I was adjusting to a new workload, to the social life, making connections, of course, adjusting to this new experience that I'm having with my body. Everything. I met my wife there. I experimented with a lot of art materials. I took almost all the classes I could take, and the ones that I didn't take, I regret. I didn't take a ceramics class. I should have done it. I didn't take advanced sculpture. I wish I did. I wish I could go back. So squeeze the juice out of your life. Try to experience everything you can. Because during that time, I figured out that water media and collage was that's where I found my creative voice, was using watercolor and collage, cutting up my materials, using ink. That's where I felt most expressive. I really hit a stride. And this project here, I don't think it's on my website. This was an all-nighter. The project was due the next day, didn't start it, had weeks to do it. Not a great example, but the work came out really impactful. And I was creating intuitively. I was trying to process my experience through my artwork. I did this triumphant kind of pose with a big head. And the pose is triumphant. It's also a military press, like an exercise movement. And if you see towards the top where weights and a barbell would be, they kind of look like question marks. They have that abstract quality to them. And there's this murky background where I was questioning my manhood and my relationship to my body with this new level of pain and this new physical limitation. I still can't run to this day. I'm very grateful for my health, but that was the reality. And only after I made this piece did I realize how significant it was. I did a couple quick thumbnail sketches trying to figure out what I wanted to make, but it was intuitive. I was doing a couple drawings. I made a couple paintings and did some backgrounds, and I just kind of put it together, and it really was very significant. So this is another example of some of the water media collage that I did during college after high school. I don't know if your teacher remembers this. This was a project I actually submitted to him for one of his assignments. And using repetition, I don't really remember what the topic was, but some of these thematic elements, these motifs are still in my work. The repetition, the equipment, the tool quality, the murky abstract shapes in the background, that's still in my work today. And that was budding when I was, I'm 29 now. That must have been when I was like 20. This is almost 10 years ago. So with that being said, my next question to you, or my next rule, what is your work telling you? What is your work telling you? After you create, especially if you're creating from an intuitive place, you should be reflecting on it. Look at it and study it like you're watching a film or you're researching a new artist. Look at your work and try to figure out why you made certain decisions, what's successful and not. scrap what's not working, pursue what is. Art is a visual language. Music is an auditory language. Decode it. Figure out what is being said or done beyond the written word. And you can push forward in your practice that way. So after I finished my undergraduate degree, I graduated college in 2017. I did some student teaching. I was considering being a teacher, which I am now. But at the time, I had such a hunger inside me. I was like, I need to create more. I feel like I was just figuring out my artistic, expressive capabilities. What can I do with this, with my abilities, all the things that I've learned in school and all these ideas I have. So I did a Master of Fine Arts at Stony Brook University, another university close to where I live. I didn't travel very far. I looked local. Again, trying to be cost effective. I commuted when I was going to that school. It wasn't over the top, prestigious, relocating my life. I had to make a decision. Do I start working or do I sit down with my parents? You know, I had the privilege of having parents that were in my life, and I spoke with them, and I was able to stay home and go to this university for a few years. With that being said, while I was at this Master of Fine Arts program, I started to create artwork in series. If you looked at my website, there's a bunch of boxes with different series where I'm exploring the same idea through similar aesthetic qualities. Like they have similar looks to them. So this one is the Range series, and the titles are, a lot of these titles I'm about to share are kind of dual meaning. I don't know if you read about them yet, but range like a mountain range, an expansive area, but also range of motion, right? The amount of movement that you can achieve within a given exercise, or, you know, the gait that you walk with. There's a certain range of motion of your hips, that sort of thing. And I'm pulling from that experience in my body. The connection to the mechanics of the body is a driving force in my work. And I was using alcohol ink, which is like rubbing alcohol and pigment, to make these paintings in layers. This first image I showed on the top left, you can see it was made on the floor. I was pouring, letting it dry, pouring again, reactivating the materials. And the details were really very beautiful. And this is something I stumbled upon it. I didn't say like, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to use this material and crush it. I was experimenting. I was using this as backgrounds for my figure drawings for a while. And then I pushed it. I experimented. I took a risk, and it produced some really fantastic results. The Scope series, similar vein, more fleshy and visceral, less landscape or geological. Definitely still has a geological quality, but especially with the color palette, a lot of reds, a lot of that like tissue, cartilage, yellowy, red, orange colors. Similar process as well to the previous series, except some of this texture and those bright highlights were created doing a sort of printmaking, where I would put more of the medium. I'm using alcohol ink, so rubbing alcohol would be the medium. Like watercolor, the medium is water. Oil paint, the medium is oil. I would reactivate the dried materials with some more alcohol, rubbing alcohol. And then I'd take a plastic tarp and I'd press it on and I'd arrange it. I'd kind of paint with it or draw with it, let it dry, and then peel it off. So it has this crunchy quality, but it ended up looking pretty fleshy, right? And the Scope series, meaning like to understand the scope of something. If you understood the scope of the book that you read, you have a general idea. It has to do with like big vision, expansive understanding, and then also a type of surgical procedure, a scope. You know, certain surgical procedures, they'll puff up, you know, the shoulder joint with a bunch of fluid. They'll go in with a camera and some tools, and they'll do a laparoscopic scope procedure. So that was kind of the title, which I only came up with afterwards. Again, reflecting on my work, not just making it and knowing exactly what I'm doing. The last series I'll talk in depth about is I called it Panoptes, or Panoptic Study. These are all figure paintings. And the idea was, there's this idea called the panopticon. which is like a prison system, a prison layout. This is something I was exposed to in my graduate school program. I was doing a lot of reading, art historical reading, and the panopticon is kind of like a self-correcting idea, the way it was generated, where the watchtower is in the center, you can't see out, and all of the inmates are made to feel that they're always being seen. My work is not about prison. My work, I replaced this idea. I read this, I got this inspiration, and I was like, I can replace the idea of the watchman or the watchtower with the idea of pain in my body after this surgery, which still follows me today. The pain is the corrective behavior. It's always there. Every decision I'm making, I have to consider if it's going to impact me and limit me. And I also, this is with watercolor. This is not alcohol ink, just watercolor on paper. And I tried to create an aesthetic quality, like a visual quality in the artwork that has a double meaning, where they look sculptural. They look like they're made of marble, because the material, you know, if you do a wet on wet painting, if you folks have done that, the pigment in watercolor wants to bleed out and leak out. And it looks a little bit like stone. It kind of has a sculptural quality, but at the same time, it looks sculptural and hard, like a strong body trying to express the perseverance and the lasting quality of the body. And yet it's made of water and it's on delicate paper that rips very easily. The values are fading into white. It is expressing how the body is fleeting. We are very fragile. So it's a kind of a visual doubling. Next rule: don't be precious when you're making your artwork. Maybe for your current assignments, you have to make a drawing, you have to make a print or a painting. As you continue, or in your own time, maybe over the summer, when you're creating, every piece that you make does not have to hit. It does not have to be successful. It's a step in the right direction. Make your artwork in groups. Tackle the same idea. You have this idea that you think is worth pursuing. Tackle it multiple times through different artworks in a similar style. That's, I'll show you some more of that. The CT scan that I showed, this like body scan of my spine, that was from 2018. Both images on the left and right were made years apart, exploring similar, the same idea, but through different visual qualities, different material processes. These are cyanotypes on the right. Those are, a cyanotype is a type of outdoor photography. You make it with light sensitive chemicals, and your paper has to be exposed to the sunlight in order to create the image in real time. It's a really beautiful process, similar to printmaking in a way. And it also creates value, like in drawing. You see, you have some bright highlights, and you have some kind of gradation, like a value scale fading into a darker blue. That creates a sense of 3 dimensions. The same thing that's happening in a drawing is happening in a cyanotype. All right, I'm going to jump through some of this. The next pictures I'm going to show you are screenshots from my photo library. I make a bunch of different albums of my artwork. About not being precious, this scope series, 73 photos, range 38 photos, 56 here, almost 350 here. 350 photos. I made so many of this series after I graduated from my graduate program. I had my master's degree and I started working. I was teaching. I was not making money from my artwork, but I was still pursuing my creative endeavors. I was trying to be an artist. I felt like I had to create. I have a million photos. These tool collages, I showed the first 3 in Budapest, a city in Europe, a year ago. I was making these at like 4:30 in the morning before I went to work, not being paid for my artwork. I just have the creative drive and I make time for it. And if some gallery or some person sees it as valuable, great. If they don't see it as valuable, I do. 200 photos. Almost 300, almost 400. These are my most recent This is my most recent series of these like figure painting collages that I've been working on. All right, I'm going to try to speed through this next portion. I know we have about 15 minutes. Installation. If you get the opportunity to put on an art show, it's a great opportunity. It's stressful. All eyes are on you, right? If it's not a group show of multiple artists and someone else is hanging your work, if it's just you, you have to plan. You have to be proactive. So the exhibition documentation on my website, those are all different shows that I've put on. Some of them are group, most of them are solo. I don't have that many if you think about over the course of 10 years, which is okay. Like I said, not everyone will consider your work valuable or want to show it. That doesn't mean you stop. So a quick story. This show called How to Stretch a Bodily Intimacy, that's what I titled it. These are the photos of the exhibition. These are some folks standing in the corridors that I created. I was going for like a meat locker kind of look and also a kind of medical space look, very sterile, a lot of corridors. You know, hospital beds are separated by curtains. A morgue has a lot of plastic, these kinds of medical spaces. I was combining those two aesthetic qualities. I thought the show came out very nice. Before this, maybe 3 days before the show opened, I was doing something like this. I don't know if the video is playing. I was trying something totally different. I was doing this kind of theatrical plastic tarp looking like membranes, trying to make these sculptural forms, and I hung the paintings in the middle. I worked so hard on it. I was there till like midnight for like 5 days in a row. Not fun. Trying very hard, putting my best effort in. I got my critique from the faculty, a critique which perhaps you guys have done. All of the faculty and my peers came in to this space, to this exhibition space, and they gave their feedback. It was not positive. It was not positive. I took that as an opportunity. I had a few days before the show opened. I want to make something great. Let me not be closed off to this feedback. Good. I did something. It wasn't successful. Good. I got it out of the way. Now I'm going to take this opportunity and make it better. I'm going to work even harder. I'm going to try harder. I have the opportunity. I'm going to use it. So here's another one of my rules. Just because you worked hard does not make the work successful, which is a tough pill to swallow. If you cannot receive criticism, you're closing yourself off from the possibility of something greater, of something more. You don't know what you're capable of until you do it. Especially if a bunch of people are saying, I don't know. You definitely want to be confident in yourself and be able to stand up for your own work, but you need to be perceptive. You have to be open-minded enough. I am going to skip ahead here because I want to leave time for questions. Some of my more recent work, I'll just put on screen real quick. Using cyanotype, using watercolor and collage. The one on the right is what I showed in Manhattan a few months ago. And now here we are back at today. The last rule I'll give you before we go to questions. Always have something in progress. This was great advice that I got from a teacher. Even if you're not working super diligently and always grinding and trying to pursue your dream, have something going that even if you take a week or a month off, it's already started. You can just tap back in and continue working. Stay in pursuit. Don't let it just die off, right? I will share some of these resources, but I wanted to put together a list of places that I've applied to exhibitions because I don't necessarily have someone that's like, Joe, we love your work. I'm giving you a show every year. I would love that. I don't have that. I'm not going to stop though. So I use some of these links. This is in a folder on my Google Chrome. And I'll scroll on these different websites to see what galleries are having exhibitions. and I'll apply. And then I put a couple of Instagram accounts that I think are worth having in your algorithm. This is all movie-based, called Eye Candy. This is some movie, some photography, kind of like physics, interesting images, Rick Rubin, kind of positive artwork, concepts. I love this account as well. Yeah, that is that's what I hope I can be beneficial by sharing that with you. And please ask me any and all questions that you have.
Thank you, Joe. It was fantastic. So again, please, this is a great opportunity to ask Joe about his experiences and his work. The floor is yours. You can be pretty close. I know you have to be that close. It don't look like your work.
Can you hear me from over here?
I think so.
I can hear you.
How do you get your art out there in the first place? Like, how do you start off doing that?
With my phone. I'm taking pictures of my work and I'm posting it to my own Instagram account as if people care. I have some friends and family that will follow, and other artists that I'll meet by going to different events, but you have to think it's worthwhile. You have to think it's worth sharing. And then honestly, that list of that list of resources, those online forums, basically, where it'll be 20 links to 20 different galleries that are showing, that are having an open call, it's called, where anyone can apply. Maybe it costs $20, maybe it's free. I have another Instagram account I forgot to include that posts free open calls. They gather all free resources or galleries that are having open calls for free. So have your work documented. That's what I'll say. If you're going to apply to a show and you need people to see it, they're not going to look at a stack of papers in your room. You want to be able to hold up your phone and show them, yeah, this is what I've been working on. And then also from there, you can apply on your computer. You can apply, you can share your work. That is what I'd say. Thanks for asking that question. What else you got?
How did you know you wanted to like pursue art as a career? Like versus as just like a hobby?
I think I'm pursuing it as both. I would consider it, I'm not making money from it. I'm getting a sense of fulfillment from it. It's something I feel like is important for me to do. I feel unfulfilled. I feel like I'm leaving things behind if I'm not creating. So whether or not it's a career for me, I find it valuable. I find it rewarding. And then if others find it rewarding and I get to be included in a show, that's amazing. But you have to believe that it's worthwhile. Can you say that question again? I want to see if I can answer it better.
Like how did you know you wanted it like as a career versus like just a hobby? Like,
right. Okay. I gotcha. So after pursuing it in school and it becoming very routine, I didn't want to leave it behind. And I'm a teacher. I teach art, so it is still a part of my life, but it's not as far as money is concerned. Like I'm doing what your teacher does, probably not as well, but I am. I can't not. It feels like I have to. You know, it's like people who love reading or they love writing stories or poetry. Whether or not it's making them money, it's something that they just do, you know, and you want to have positive habits. So it really became a habit. And then I think what I'm doing is pretty successful. I think it's interesting enough that I want to share it. And then it gets reality tested. Oh, I got into this show. Oh, my friend was over and he was really impressed. That's great. You know, that's what I'd say. What else?
What do you do when you have like a creative block or you are having trouble coming up with any ideas? Because that happens to me.
Go ahead. You said that happens to you?
It happens to me all the time, and it's the worst because you want to create, but you don't have anything on your mind, so everything comes out worse than it usually does.
What? How old are you? What grade are you in? 11th, you said? Okay. There's two answers. One is you're going to continue to have experiences in your life. They will give you inspiration. They'll give you something to include in your artwork by having experiences. If you don't know what to make, go see a friend. You should be looking. My homework to you that I cannot follow up on is you should be searching for museums or galleries near you. And over the summer, ask your friends or ask your parents or whoever, we should go check out this museum in St. Louis. We should go XYZ. There's a gallery here. Follow some things on Instagram. Buy a ticket to a show. Most museums are free anyway. You should go see art. Then you can write down some names, go with a book, make a sketch, write down the artist's name. That's plenty of things to be doing that is involved in creating artwork. I go to a museum. I don't know anything. I'll know a few things, a few artists, and I'll make a list. Then I can go Google them on a train ride home or a drive home. So one is to experience, go see things, just live your life, and experiences will come, whether it's family or heartbreak or health, whatever. And then the other is to just have some kind of creative process. If you like drawing comics or anime, if you like drawing flowers, if you like making little paper sculptures, you made a paper sculpture yesterday, make another one. It can be the same thing. You're going to get a little better with the material. Creativity doesn't have to strike for you to create your artwork, and it probably won't. It doesn't strike me all the time. I have a pile of papers that I printed out of pictures that I'm going to use in a collage. I don't know what I'm going to make. I'll sit there and cut 30 pictures out. Okay, that was my studio time for the day. That was my creating. I didn't make anything, but I was in process. Go in there and sharpen some pencils or whatever it is that you do. Clean up your painting palette. You know, that sort of thing. Just have it always be something that you are connected to. Not necessarily, I made the best artwork 10 days in a row. That's not going to happen. You know, that's what I'd say.
We have about 2 minutes. There's really one last question, comment for Joe.
Was there ever any fear or hesitance deciding to pursue something in art rather than something else that was a bit more, say, safe or something you're going to rely on?
Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely. I mean, I was doing all drawing. I was always doing drawings. Wasn't that good at painting when I was in high school. And then when I went to college, I did more painting, so I got a little better at that. But then when I was in my graduate program, I knew how to paint. I knew how to draw. I didn't know how to build anything. I didn't know how to make an art video. I didn't know how to do cyanotype. I was afraid. I was like, I'm going to make this. It's going to suck. But you have to be okay with that. I was afraid while I was making it. I made a video, the first iteration of it, the first attempt I made, it came out pretty bad. And I had to present it in front of all my teachers. This was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. You have to be able to know that what you're doing is worthwhile, even if it's unsuccessful. Take the advice and try again. I would say don't expect to be successful the first time you're trying something new, a new material. So fear is a good thing. You should be, that lets you know you're kind of pushing your boundaries and doing something that's uncomfortable. If you know how to draw, excellent. Use that to pursue photography. Use that to pursue sculpture, that sort of thing. Fear is a good thing. That means you're doing something right.
Any last moments here for Bob and dismiss or any last questions? Let's thank Joe for his time, for coming. Thank Joe. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. It was awesome being here. Good luck to everybody. And I'll send out some resources. I'll email them to your teacher. And, if you have any questions or want to send me anything over email, I guess maybe your teacher can process those, and I can communicate with him. If you have any questions that you want to ask me or a sample you want to send me, send it to him and he can send it to me. Because I don't want to just be gone. I can be of help, but we're not going to talk directly. Thanks again. This was really cool. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care, man.